We are live. Hello, good evening. And tonight it's myself and the medical herbalist and part time comedian, Clare Holohan. And we're on here to talk to you about all things wild medicine. And Claire's going to tell you a little bit about October from the book, our beautiful book, of course, our encyclopedia. We've pretty much nearly sold all of the first 5,000, which is pretty incredible. And we're just about to go to a reprint before Christmas. So it's all very exciting that people are still wanting and ordering the book because yeah, once you've written it, don't you feel, Claire? You kind of forget how good it is, and then people read it and tell you. So, can you kick off with just telling us a little bit about October?
Yeah, so what is there around at the moment to forage in October? I know those of you that follow me on social media will see that there are plenty of mushrooms around at this time of year. Managed to get a bumper haul of seps or penny buns, porcini mushrooms last week, despite the terrible weather that we've been having and everything being a bit soggy and damp around the edges. Still managed to get a few mushrooms that hadn't been washed away in the rain. So there's plenty. Absolutely, yeah. They can get really, really large. I mean, they are kind of at their best when they're young and small, but they're still absolutely usable and edible, and great when they're bigger as well. So there's still seps popping up in Scotland at the moment. But thinking about the book, what I'd written about for the October season, and of course this year has been a bit of a strange one in terms of our weather patterns. So in my part of Scotland, in the West Highlands, we had a very warm and dry late spring and early summer. So we got off to a flying start with the season, and everything was kind of ahead of itself. And then, of course, the usual kind of damp, warm summer. And basically for the past month or so, it just feels like it's been raining fairly constantly. So it's been a bit of an odd year for plants. So everything's kind of been a wee bit ahead of itself all year. So things that I would normally expect to be coming out in July were already kind of out in June. So I've been kind of having to watch and think, okay, right, that's happening now. So I'd written about brambles in October, and of course, if you'd been keeping an eye out for brambles, you'll have noticed that they've been starting to come out, into even July. I think I saw my first ripe bramble, and August there was a few more, and of course September we had much more of an abundance of brambles. And of course, most people are familiar with the humble bramble and what it looks like, and many people have foraged it in the past. And obviously, as a child, it was one of the first wild foods that I personally engaged with my mum and my gran and all that stuff. So brambles do arrive at this time of year. Obviously, they're fantastic source of vitamin C. They've got a whole host of lots of different vitamins and minerals in them, which can help to support the immune system. And of course, thinking about the change of the season and the dying of the light, this is a time when our immune systems are at risk, and there are lots of colds and flus and viruses and things flying around and doing the rounds. And I'm noticing in my clinic that many people are starting to come down with kind of bugs and things. So it's really important to think about supporting our immune system health at this time of year. So all the berries and fruits of the seasons, elderberries, for example, as well, have immune boosting properties. So adding those kind of foods into our diets at this time of year will help to support our immune systems and give our bodies the building blocks that we need to fight off infections. So that's the bramble, and so that's the fruit of the bramble. The leaves can also be used to make refreshing herbal tea. They're quite high in tannins, so they can be used as a substitute for black tea. So if you're trying to reduce your caffeine consumption or your black tea consumption, then you can actually make a an infusion with the bramble leaf. It is best harvested in the spring and into the early summer, but you can still use the bramble leaves pretty much year round if you want to. And the root also has medicinal properties. So coming into this time of year, roots are obviously the storage organs of the plant. So they store all the sugars and all the food that the plant needs to keep itself alive over winter. So autumn and into the early winter is a good time to harvest roots. And the bramble root in particular, that can actually help with upset stomachs, gastroenteritis, infective diarrhea, that kind of thing. They are quite tricky to dig up. They're very tenacious, as many gardeners will know if you've ever tried to wrestle with a bramble. But obviously the end result is worth it. So it's good to have a bit of that in your store cupboard.
How do you prepare it?
So
there has been quite a bit of gastric bugs going about. So
yeah. And of course, getting into the winter, winter vomiting bugs and things like that. So it's good to have a store of bramble root in the cupboard. And of course, you can just get out there and harvest it. It's so abundant and it's completely free. So what you would do is it is technically illegal to dig the roots of a wild plant in the wild without the landowner's permission in the UK. But most landowners won't mind you digging up a few brambles for them, or you can dig them from your own garden, of course. So you dig up the roots and then you would just scrub them with a kind of scrubbing brush, just like you would do with a potato or any kind of root vegetable. And then you can cut the roots down into small pieces and dry them in a cool oven, so an oven at its lowest setting with the door open. Or if you have a dehydrator, you can dehydrate them until they snap. So that's when you know that the herb is completely dry, as they should snap rather than bend. So that's quite a good tip for drying herbs.
And then what would you do with it?
So then you would store that in an airtight container, and you would make a decoction with it. So you can basically add the dried bramble root to hot water in a pan on the stove, and then you just simmer it for about half an hour, and you get this really strong medicinal extract of the root. And then you can just sip that if you've got an upset stomach. Obviously, sipping things rather than glugging big quantities is a good idea. So you can just sip that through the day, and it should help to reduce the infection and settle your stomach down.
Now, I'm in the process of doing a lot of training with this doctor in Canada, and we're just talking about parasites and fungus and yeast infections, etc. How would that sit with that?
Well, I think it's mostly has a kind of antibacterial action, but obviously it's a very tannin-rich plant as well, and tannins often have a wide-ranging kind of antimicrobial action, but they also help to support the structure of the mucous membranes as well. So the tannins are astringent, meaning that they're quite drying, so they actually help to tone the membranes as well. So it would have probably a beneficial effect in terms of healing the lining of the gut as well. Whether it has a specifically anti-parasitic action, I'm not sure, but from that perspective, in terms of healing the tissues, healing the soil, should we say, it wouldn't do any harm.
Yeah, I'm getting a kind of strong feeling that I should try it.
Okay. Feeling drawn to the bramble root.
Brambles out in the garden right now. So in fact, I'd kind of forgotten that I could still go out and pick them. I'm like, God, and the loganberries as well. I'm like, you keep forgetting. It's just been an amazing amount of fruit.
The fruit's been amazing this year. I think with the warm weather in the early summer, the blossoms were all really good, and then the fruits all set quite early. So we have had a great year for fruits this year. Obviously with the recent rain, things are starting to get a wee bit soggy now, but there are still some things hanging on, and if you can manage to get out there before all the birds have them, then there's still a few things out there for the picking. So it has been a fantastic year for fruits.
Yeah, Barmolach, it was just absolute hundreds of strawberries, raspberries, gooseberries, red currants, black currants. And yeah, I was really surprised at the weekend there to still see big loganberries.
Yeah, that's proper food as medicine, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, and I think that's, it's there's a big difference between, well, I'm eating healthy and realizing that the medicinal effect of these simple fruits that we took for granted that you could pick in your mum's garden or your granny's garden, not fully understanding the power of, well, the time of year that nature gives it to us, and because it's so delicious, you think, well, I think we always think these things, it's a bit sugary, it's a bit of a treat, but in actual fact, there's a lot of medicinal magic in there, isn't there?
Yeah, and that's the thing, make your treats your medicine, you know, choose those things that are delicious and pleasurable and, but are actually doing you some good as well, so having a little bowl of blackberries in the morning, as a treat is actually doing your immune system a lot of favors.
Mhm. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
So is that 3? What else have we got
Sorry,
in?
I was talking about, I went on a bit of a bramble rant. Another plant rant from me. So the other herbs that we looked at in the book for October were burdock. So again, looking at another root plant, and this is a really common medicinal plant that grows in the UK, and another really powerful medicine actually. So burdock is obviously traditionally combined with dandelion as a root. So some people might be familiar with the old remedy dandelion and burdock, which is now made into fizzy sugary drink, but traditionally it would have been more of a health tonic. And so dandelion and burdock are both plants that help with the detoxification process. So burdock in particular helps to cleanse through the lymphatic system. It helps to cleanse through the kidneys, and it also supports the digestive system. So it really supports so many different pathways of elimination through the body. And the root helps to feed the good bacteria within the gut as well. So it actually has a prebiotic effect on the microbiome. So we all know that, the microbiome is very important for our digestive health and has a knock-on effect on our immune system health. So the bacteria that are present within our digestive system actually communicate directly through modified immune tissue on the walls of the gut with the immune system itself. So these bacteria actually literally speak to, if you pardon my terms, they communicate directly with our immune cells. So by feeding those bacteria the types of good fibre that they want, they actually have a beneficial effect on the immune system. So burdock contains those long chain sugars, the polysaccharides, that help to feed those good bacteria. So that's one way that it helps. It can also help to support certain hormonal processes within the body. It's actually eaten as a food in Japan, well, quite widely in Japan, but some people in the UK also eat it as a food.
Scotland? Apart from you?
Some strange herbalists and foraging types. So it is, you can actually kind of cultivate it as a root vegetable or harvest it from, for use as a root vegetable, add it into soups and stews or with it. And you want to harvest the roots in their first year of growth before they get too solid and woody. They're much softer and easier to work with, and quite delicious.
And is that a concoction as well, or would you eat these?
Yeah, so you can just roast them like a root vegetable, or you can put them into soups and stews and things like that as a root vegetable, or you can do the decoction like I described with the bramble root. You can do the same thing with burdock as well. And if you want to, obviously you can make the dandelion and burdock combination. They're two plants that work very, very well. We have this concept of synergy in herbal medicine where the whole of the medicine is worth more than the sum of its parts. So different combinations of herbs actually potentiate the effects of each other, and they work well. It's like a community, they work well in harmony with each other. So dandelion and burdock are, they're good pals. They work well together.
And I just want to say in the book, because if you're hearing these words for the first time, like decoction, and it sounds like a bit like a foreign language, which it certainly did to me when I met Clare at first. Clare has in the book, I don't need to show you the page, but all the different ways that you can prepare the plants in order to get them into the body. And it's so much more simple than I realised, because you kind of look at that, and I think that was one of the big things, the medicine making with you, which is one of the things that we do in our retreat. It really helps you to say, oh, right, is that all you have to do? I can do that.
Yeah, and that's like such a mission for me, is to really try and simplify, herbal medicine and foraging and herbal preparations, because yes, it can be really complex, but it can also be as simple as just like putting some stuff in a jar and pouring some vinegar over the top of it. And I think there's a lot of kind of reluctance, or maybe people are a little bit nervous or frightened about trying new things or trying to make remedies and things. And I think once you actually do it, you can see just how straightforward it is. And what I love to see is people going, oh, well, I can do that in my kitchen. And that just gives me so much joy, because it's like, great, okay. Sparked that, we've lit that spark, and that's you off on your foraging journey. It doesn't have to be, okay, there's nice things about preparing really complex foods and, putting a bit of extra effort in, but it can also be just as simple as, making a very straightforward infusion.
Yeah, and I think it's nice to be able to, it's very rewarding to make your own thing. I found my jars that were made up at Limbrick, because that was like a wild medicine kind of day for us, wasn't it? With all that incredible meadow that these girls have got up there, and it was so nice to watch everybody just go out and choose intuitively what they were drawn to, and obviously what they'd heard you saying on the talk. Because what was it like? I mean, I tell people that story. You and I kind of just looked. We actually brought tears to our eyes, didn't it?
Absolutely.
The joy of that meadow. You were like, "This is a medicine cabinet right here." Oh my God! It was just. It moves you so much to see when the girls at Lynbreck Croft. For if anybody doesn't know who they are, they've bought this huge 130-acre bit of land, and they've just basically learned how to do this really rewilding, and it is just a joy to see what the planet just gives you when you work with the animals and the seasons, and for the greater good of all of that. I mean, isn't it just magical up there?
Yeah, it's an amazing place. It's so great to see the work that Lynn and Sandra are putting in there, and I've been going there for a couple of years now, and it's just so nice to watch the land really heal, and to see them really encouraging all that plant diversity and habitat diversity and species diversity. It's just an absolute joy.
It is, and Sandra came in one of our retreats.
That's right.
And it was just so great to spend time with her, and I think as well, the other thing that I love about Lynbreck was that they really didn't know what they were going to do with it, and they just have really thought laterally. And I mean, all that hard work is paying off, and the fact that they planted 17,000 trees, I still can't get over that. I'm just like, wow, it's crazy. Right, so do we have another October plant?
Yeah, so our last October plant is common sorrel. I've written about common sorrel and wood sorrel in the book, which actually is a plant that is kind of abundant almost all the way through the year, obviously less so in the winter, but you often get this kind of second flush of green growth of it at this time of year, kind of into the autumn, September and October time. And of course, in the springtime, we tend to get a lot of green growth anyway. So I've written about it in the October section, because it's nice to see that, get that extra little bit of greenery before we start moving into the winter months. So common sorrel is quite an easy plant to identify. It's got kind of waxy green leaves that are slightly pointed, completely hairless, and it's actually got a little V shape at the bottom of the leaf where it joins onto the stem. So that's its kind of key identification feature. So it almost looks like a little kind of arrowhead And there is quite a lot of variation in size of common sorrel. So it can be quite small, but it can also get, really quite substantial as well. It is in the dock family, so it's related to our common broadleaf dock, which is the one that we learn to use as children for nettle stings. It has a similar flower structure to the dock, and you'll probably see it in the middle of summer with a kind of reddish tinge in grassland habitats. You'll see the plant in flower and then in seed. So sorrel is generally used as a food rather than a medicine. It's got a very kind of citrusy, sour flavour. So it's really good for adding into dishes where you want that kind of, citrusy, kind of green apple peel, grape skin type, punch.
Right.
And what you're tasting there really is the oxalic acid. So sorrel is quite high in oxalates. And you do want to be a little bit careful with this plant so that you're not eating too much, because oxalates can lead to kidney stone formation, but you would have to eat really quite a lot of it, and most days, for it to become problematic. So people with compromised digestive function, things like inflammatory bowel disease, or kind of severe digestive inflammation that's affects absorption, might want to be a bit careful with it. But again, a few leaves here and there is not going to be particularly problematic. And oxalates are pretty widely distributed within the vegetable kingdom, so most people are eating oxalates anyway. So it's an interesting one because it does have this kind of dual thing going on, which you find a lot with herbs. In that, it's got this potential to form kidney stones. But if you read all the old traditional Scottish herbals, they were actually using it to treat kidney problems in the past. So it's a kind of interesting one because it does have this slightly kind of cleansing effect, but it also, you do have to be a little bit careful with the stone formation. I think traditionally it was used as an anti-inflammatory, and it was used for certain skin conditions and things like that. Like I say, I don't tend to really use it so much as a medicine, but it does have antifungal properties as well. So, if you're thinking about treating fungal infections and internal infections, then it might be one to use in small quantities as part of a wider treatment strategy for that. So yeah, and because it's got that kind of slightly sour, bitter flavour, anything that tastes bitter helps to stimulate the digestive system. So thinking about, even when you think about bitter or sour tasting things, you can actually feel yourself start to salivate.
Yes.
So it's starting that digestive process. Your salivary glands start to produce saliva, your stomach starts to produce acid, your gallbladder gets ready to release bile, your liver starts producing bile, and your pancreas starts kicking out all those pancreatic enzymes and hormones. And basically it's just telling your digestive system to get itself going because we're going to start receiving some food here. And that's so important because, within the Western diet, we've changed our foods so much so that they're really sweet tasting, they're really salty. We don't have a lot of, really traditionally bitter foods or sour tasting foods in our Western diet anymore. So it's really important to add those foods in because they have such a benefit to our health. So adding some sorrel into your diet at this time of year, just in small amounts, is not going to be a bad thing.
Well, yeah, you can, because I think that's what I always say to people. You don't need to eat a ton of greens. Just as long as it's the variety, isn't it? And that's when what all these different things that are growing. Literally, if you live in Scotland, pretty much everywhere, you can pick up a few of these things and add it into your diet on a daily basis and be doing. It's because it's kind of in for the long haul, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah, and
good practice every day.
Yeah, and I think, the science that we know about the microbiome is still a drop in the ocean. It's very much an emerging science, but what we do know is that diversity is key. And I think that's why a lot of nutritional therapists now recommend, 30 a week rather than
Yeah.
5 or 10 a day or whatever they used to recommend. And that's really about getting that diversity into your diet. Well, if you're foraging foods, then you're getting that in probably one sitting, as you experienced when you came to mine for the first time, and we had the forage salad and listed all the different plants that were in the forage salad. And I think we got a list of something like 35 plants or something like that just in the one sitting.
But also, I was listening to Zach Bush the other day, and he was saying, foraging improves your microbiome. Going into
Yeah,
nature and touching the plants, of course, because the skin is an organ. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of obvious when people point that out. You think, "God, why did I not think of that?"
Absolutely. And, when you think about walking through a wood, think about all those fungal spores that are in the air, think of all the good bacteria that are in the air, think of all the, the chemicals that the trees are producing. Just going for a walk in the woods is going to have an effect on your microbiome. And it can only be a good thing, because we need that diversity. That's what we as humans were built to receive.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us a little bit to more of the 5 elements for what's great for now. Obviously, it's not quite too cold to get your bare feet in the ground yet. I mean, it's still pretty warm. I don't know what it's like with you, but it was pretty mild here yesterday. You can still get your bare feet for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then obviously forest bathing and getting in amongst the trees and the plants and breathing as you can get your iodine by the seashore, just walking and I was the training I was doing this week was in aromatherapy oils and how, all the trillions of wee villi and hair in the nose, when you smell, how it impacts and affects the brain. And you're like, God, it's just such an incredible thing. And how the basically the microbiomes interacting with nature. And it's all just one phenomenal jungle of madness.
Yeah,
Um,
we're an
so
amazingly intricate system, aren't we?
Oh, it's phenomenal. And also cold water. Just a little bit to talk about the elements again and how we can boost our immune system by getting cold. And it's interesting, according to Andrew Huberman from, I can't remember what fancy university, Stanford University, he says that 11 minutes in the cold per week is kind of the optimum. So I think, you know, for people that have not tried cold water yet, you don't have to go in and stay in for 20 minutes. You can go in for a minute, you can go in for 30 seconds.
Mm.
It's so nice to do it in nature. And that's one thing that we're pretty lucky with. And it really helps to keep you strong, your mind strong. And I think, we don't know the madness that's going on in the world. I just can't even bear to think about it. We have to keep ourselves strong and resilient. And there's never been a more important time to get all that wild medicine onto your body and your mind, because if times get harder, then we're able to cope with it. And that's really what it's about, isn't it? It's about prevention. Don't get sick. It's much, much easier not to get sick than it is to try and bring yourself back from a really chronic, debilitating state. So, and it's the same with the reconnection, getting the forest, just doing a little bit. And again, you don't need to do it for 5 hours. You can be in the water for a minute or 2 minutes. You can be in the forest for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. We know that 12 minutes in the forest is going to take your adrenaline levels down very, very quickly, 10 minutes. So all these things that you can do for free. And
Yeah, I think that's great. That's such great advice, isn't it? And I think particularly one of the things that I hear, in my practice is I don't have time. And actually, when you think about 11 minutes in the cold water a week, well, that's 2 kind of 5.5 minute sessions. If you don't have time for that, come on, you're doing something wrong.
Well, that's kind of how I feel as well. That's what I like about it. It is really quick. Oh my God, that burn at Barmoloch last weekend.
I bet. Oh my goodness, that rain, horrendous.
It was. Di had said to me, the burn's in Spate. I said, no worries. We always go in when it's in Spate. And then we came down, and the river was up almost to that gate, right beside the cottages. I mean, it was mental. It was absolutely mental. Have you seen any of the videos? I'll send them.
No, I haven't seen any of the videos, but I have been thinking about yous because I wondered if
Stuart and
everything
Helen never in their whole time there, they've never seen anything like it. It was
we were
crazy.
we were
But
completely.
also, like, you're just like, "Oh my god, nature can just come in and take everything away at once."
It really makes you realise your kind of fragility and immortality, doesn't it?
It was really quite biblical, I have to say. You're just watching the water. I mean, it was in the road. It was like this. It was halfway up my wellies. It was crazy.
Needing to build an ark down there
Uh-huh.
now.
So talking about Barmolach, we're going to be there next month. Can you remember the dates?
I
Well,
can look at that. It's like the 9th.
so we have our wild medicine winter retreat, and it
9th,
runs
9th to the 13th.
9 to 30. We run it from the Thursday through till the Monday, and the reason for that is because it just deepens your experience and gets you into that much more relaxed state. And you've got all the tons of vegetables and foraged foods and ferments and seaweed and all the things that you're going to be eating when you come there. So having a few days of that going through the body really helps you to reconnect. And like we were saying there, you will learn how to make some medicines with Clare. And if you come and you've got any of your health issues, you've got like pretty much 5 days with us. So we will be absolutely happy to help you and give you advice to go home with, because that's what we're both very passionate about, is that you can do things at home. And but there's two new things coming into this retreat which we're really excited about. One is the biofield viewer. Who's got the best aura? Who's got the best third eye? Oh, it's so funny.
Just to say it's not a competition.
It's no competition. What is phenomenal about this is that you can start to see the biofield, the electromagnetic side of the body in real time. It's just fun to see. But also what we can see, if anybody is interested to go a bit deeper, is what's been carried on the physical and what's been carried on the emotional level. And that can be, I mean, we can discover that. There's a lot of the technology we don't need. We can discover it ourselves. But it's really interesting for people in terms of feedback to go, oh, that is me. That's not a therapist saying you need this, you need that, or you're holding this, or you're holding that. It's like there's the biofield, there's your physical energy, and it's not about diagnosing, it's about seeing where maybe energy isn't flowing, and how the plants and the medicines will obviously help that. And have obviously my big part is big passion is letting go, and you'll be experiencing that. And so you'll be able to see the changes on the biofield. And the other thing is sound healing. So what we're doing now, as well as, obviously we know we're electromagnetic as well as physical and biological. But what we can do with this technology is read the room. And we, as a group, we can see the coherence in the group, and then we can use sound to actually balance all the energies out. So it's going to give it, this is the first retreat we've ever done this technology's ever been brought into, even at Barmolach. So it's very, very new, very cutting edge, very exciting. And again, just really helpful for people to be able to go home. And because it's easy to go on a retreat, and there's millions of them now, and they're all phenomenal. But it's what you do on a daily basis, isn't it, when you get home, that will either take you towards where you want to go or away from that. So we really give you very practical tips. And as I say, if you want to talk to Clare and I about any specific health issues, and it's so much fun, this retreat. We just have a laugh because, yeah, we're out in nature and you're learning all about the plants. It's really fun to learn. And as I say, and you'll meet new people. We've got some great WhatsApp groups with the guys that have been before. You get new friends, and it's really great to come into the group and share recipes, share ideas, where you went for a swim, what you did. It's just because I say that to people a lot. I'm reminding you a lot of the time. There's so much knowledge out there. We know what to do. We don't really need more information. We just now have to take stock breathe. Obviously, that's another one of my big passions. You'll be doing breath work. You'll be able to get into the river. We'll be in the forest bathing. Yeah, and other things as well. So yeah, it's just a phenomenal few days. And usually you and I come out of it feeling so much brighter and better too, don't we?
I mean, it's really amazing for us because we work really hard at the retreat, but we also come out feeling
Yeah,
like we've been on retreat because it's such a healing experience, and we're eating all that amazing food and just being immersed in the beautiful nature around Barmolach, and you know we learn from each other as well, and
absolutely.
we go home with a whole new toolkit of tips and tricks and things to incorporate into our day-to-day well-being practices. So it's really just such a fantastic experience all round.
Absolutely. And the food, we've got 11 women coming up from Newcastle at the weekend. The garden is just abundant. We had Vida there last weekend doing family constellations, which was really nice for me. I made soup at lunchtime and I did the evening meal. So I just joined in and really felt very zen by the time I left. But like everything that was on the table, pretty much apart from chickpeas and lentils, was from the garden.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Just like, and they were so appreciative of the food. It's just such a joy, such a simple joy to go out in the morning and just look and see what's there.
Yeah.
The polytunnel's it's just like a happy jungle. So that's getting delivered, and of course you and I just big foodies anyway, love the kitchen. We always think we should put a menu out so that people understand the quality of food they're going to get, and then we're like, but then we'd have to do what we said we were going to do.
It's quite an evolutionary experience.
Yeah. And it's also you go out into the garden and go, right, what have I made a pea puree thing last week, dip, and it was just because there was so many beans. It's not pea puree, a bean puree, bean and mince. I just mixed them up. It was delicious. So you can't really pre-plan these things. You have to see what's there and what you bring as well from your medicinal magical garden.
Yeah, yeah. I've already got a few ideas up my sleeve for
Awesome.
exciting menus. Yeah.
Awesome. So, if you're interested in joining us, I will put the link. It's on Heal Scotland /events, healscotland.com/events. You will see there. And if you arrive around for 4 o'clock on the Thursday, so that you can get bedded in, have some delicious food, and there's a hot tub there as well. So and also we'll be bringing in the seaweed so that you can have that amazing soak with the seaweed, and then you can jump in the river. It's all, yeah, lots of little treats in there. And then usually leave at lunchtime on the Monday. So if you're planning to come, that's the kind of time. And it'll take you about 2.5 hours to drive from Glasgow and 3.5 from Edinburgh. So you can probably work out wherever you are in the country. Inverness would be probably 3.5 as well. So it'd be great to see you there. So have we got anything else to chat about? It's actually a really good idea to come on every month and just talk about the book.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking that. It's really nice to go through the plants and, just
Yes.
let know what's out and about in season at the moment. So, like I say, there's always seasonal variations, and some years are different to others. So everything that's in the book, you can always look a month behind and a month ahead and keep an eye out for things, because nothing's carved in stone, especially with the way that the climate is at the moment. So it's worth reading around it a little bit more. But yeah, it's great to keep an eye open for what's around to forage at that time of year.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So did you not have any flooding then, Nick, last week?
Yeah, we did. We were totally cut off.
Oh, were
Completely.
you?
Yeah. The road was closed, completely flooded. Yeah, it was crazy. I had volunteers up. we were supposed to be working in the herb garden and getting the root harvesting and making medicines, but there was no way we were digging the soil in that weather. It was just would have really been damaging to the soil actually to be working it in that rain. So I've still got a long list of jobs that I need to get through. But that's fine. I'll crack
So how
away.
will you do that then? Will you have to have another helpers?
I'll probably just do it myself at some point. I mean, it's obviously much easier with help, but yeah, I've got a couple of couple of days that I can dedicate to it at some point over the next month or so.
Cool. Okay, fantastic. Well, I look forward to. I've got an event in Glasgow, in Edinburgh. Sorry, I should say that before that, before I see you. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And we're talking. We've got the book. Plug,
Dunno.
plug, plug. Great Christmas present. And obviously, we have turned the book not just into a retreat, but also into a festival. So we're going to be, getting this all out to you at the Goddess gatherings as well. So if you've got any questions for Clare or myself, just ping them on the message underneath the video, and we'll get back to you. And yeah, I think that's us.
Great to chat. Hope to see you all at the retreat.
Yeah, I'll see you in November.
See you
Ciao.
then.
Bye.
Bye.